What's up, everybody? Hammerheart Metal Reviews here once again. It is that time of the month, time to talk about my favorite albums that were released this past month, October 2024. We are now getting very close to year end, and with months like this, it is making my year end list more and more difficult each month. This month was stacked with absolutely killer albums, some of which I'm sure are going to end up being very high on my year end list. But before we get into that, I will also say there were some albums that came out this month that I found quite disappointing. Where usually on these videos I don't necessarily focus on albums that I didn't enjoy. I thought I would just mention a few that maybe if you heard my list and then like, oh, what about this album? What about that album? Well, I'll tell you why I didn't like some of these albums. So some major disappointments to me were 1349. I thought it was pretty boring and bland, very disappointed. Swallow the Sun, same thing, very boring and very disappointing. And probably my most disappointing release was one that I was really looking forward to was Maul with their new album. I absolutely loved their full length from, was it last year or the year before? And I was really anticipating this one, and I gotta say, it was pretty bad. I do not like it at all. They changed directions and I did not like it. A couple other ones that I thought were like decent but not good enough to make my list are Undeath and Querencia, which I think is one of the most overrated bands out there. But yeah, just in case you're wondering why those albums weren't on my list, it's because I didn't really like any of them too much, or some of them are okay. But let's get the negative out of the way. Let's start talking about some better stuff, some good albums. I got my list of 20 albums here that I think you should go check out, my favorites from the month. So, to kick it off, I am going with a Deu Bongar and their album Dark Medieval Hash. So this is some symphonic black metal. Clearly by the name, this is a parody band. It's just a lot of fun. The music is actually pretty good. It's like it's symphonic black metal from Norway, but it's not original. They're making fun of like the early Norwegian scene, obviously with a name like Deu Bongar. Go check out their music video for the song A Witch is Stoned. Like everything here is about smoking weed, but in the scope of black metal. It's just, it puts a smile on my face. It's silly. Don't take it too seriously, but I wanted to mention it anyways because it's just a lot of fun. Up next, going with Carnosus and the new album Wormtales. This is some Swedish technical melodic death metal, however you want to label it. A lot of similarities would be to a band like Revocation or the Black Dahlia Murder. I will say the vocalist here is really the shining star of the band. He's really good for the style and just overall a pretty solid album. Up next, I'm going with Aera. Might be mispronouncing that. A-E-R-A. The new album Phantast. This is some German atmospheric black metal. I really dig the album art here. Like, check that out. Just a cool album cover to just suck you in and kind of let you know what you're in store for. This is really full of these long compositions. Like, it's only 4 tracks and it's over 40 minutes long. Just this huge soundscape to just draw you in. And it's just a really well done album that I think you should go give a listen to. Sticking with black metal, or at least black metal adjacent, I'm going with Silhouette and the new album Les Dires de l'Âme. Might be mispronouncing that as I do not speak French. This is some French atmospheric black metal, but also with a lot of like shoegaze and post-black metal tendencies in there as well. This is released on the excellent label Antique Records, one of my favorite out there. Anytime an album gets released on that label, I am sure to check it out. This band kind of combines some unique soundscapes here with these clean, enchanting female vocals and then the harsh male, like more black metal style vocals. A lot of comparisons could be to a band like Alcest, at least back in the early Alcest days when they were still pretty good and incorporating more black metal into their sound. But yeah, this is just a very calming album, really relaxing to listen to. I enjoy it quite a bit. Up next, going with Mother of Graves and their new album, The Periapt of Absence. This is some melodic death doom from the USA. I will say it's pretty typical of the genre. This album is not necessarily like blowing me away with uniqueness or originality, but it's executed very well and it's just a solid release that if you're into the style, I am sure you will dig. Switching it up completely now, going with Astral Doors and the new album, The End of It All. This is some Swedish, just classic heavy metal mixed with some power metal. Really the focus on this band has always been about their insanely good vocalist. I will say on this album, the songwriting is a really like simplified approach. It's still decent, but it's not blowing me away. It's definitely far from their best, but it's still a lot of fun, and overall it's enjoyable. If you're just looking for some like simple heavy metal that's very sing-alongable with great vocals, then this album checks all those boxes. Up next, another one I'm probably going to mispronounce. It's Seid or Seid, I'm not sure, S-E-I-D, with their new album Hymns to the Norse. So this is some Swedish epic pagan black metal. When I say that, it's really got like old school black metal feeling with the lo-fi mix, but epic black metal with this lo-fi mix just results in something tremendous here. It just takes you on this epic like Viking journey. The album cover here kind of just lets you know what you're in store for. You look at that, you basically know what kind of black metal you are going to get. So if that is something that has you intrigued, then definitely go give this one a listen. Up next, I'm going with Oransi Pazuzu and their new album Muuntautuja. Probably mispronouncing that because I do not speak Finnish either. But yeah, a band that probably needs no introduction from Finland. This is like psychedelic black metal, avant-garde experimental black metal, with avant-garde being the key word here. I wouldn't even necessarily say there's a ton of black metal in this sound, but it's super suffocating album. Like the atmosphere is very strange. They bring in these different influences and like it goes so many different directions. It is a little bit off kilter for my general tastes, but I think it's still worth a trip here and there. I don't know as I'm going to be returning to this album a ton, but every now and then I'll probably put it on when I just feel like listening to something weird. Up next, kind of sticking with some avant-garde stuff, I'm going with Shamash and their new album, the Maldoror Chants Old Ocean. So this is some Swiss avant-garde black metal, bringing in a lot of post elements as well. Once again, experimental being a big key word here. This is a very large in scope album. Another one that's kind of got this like calming atmosphere. It's still got these aggressive moments as well, but it's almost more of an introspective album. It's just elaborate and engaging throughout its runtime, and overall I find it very interesting. It's a very solid release. Up next, sticking with black metal, going with Feral Light and their new album A Reckoning with the Intangible. So this is some USA black metal from Minneapolis. Apparently this is going to be their last album. They're disbanding once this album was released, but a solid way to end their career and end their discography. It's just full of great riffs and these really menacing vocals. The songwriting here is really on point. There's only 4 tracks here, but the couple songs in the middle are really long compositions. It's kind of the centerpiece of the album, and both those tracks are amazing. Definitely worth checking out. Up next, going with a Black Curse and the new album Burning in Celestial Poison. So this is some US blackened death metal. This one is another one that is so suffocating and just chaotic. This album is going to drench you with its pummeling insanity. It's just relentless riffing and drumming and screaming, but it's fucking great. This one just came out, so I haven't spent a ton of time with it. This is one that could rise higher as I spend more time with it, but even after a couple listens, it almost made the top 10, just missed out, but in time, we'll see if it rises higher. Speaking of the top 10, let's see what those are. Gonna grab a sip of water, and then we'll get into my 10 favorite albums from the month of October. Okay, so kicking it off in 10th place, going with War Dogs and the new album Only the Stars Are Left. This band is from Spain, and this is just some good old traditional heavy metal. It's full of catchy tunes with these killer riffs and overall decent vocals. I wouldn't say the vocals are necessarily the shining star on this album. It's more about the riffs, but the vocals are still okay. I hadn't actually even heard of this band before, and someone, one of my viewers, recommended it to me in the comments on one of my other videos, and I thank you for that. I'm always glad when I get recommendations, so thank you, because I wouldn't have heard of this album otherwise, and it is a solid release. If you're into traditional heavy metal, definitely go give this one a listen. Up next, I'm going with The Spirit with the new album Songs Against Humanity. So this is some German blackened death metal with a good dose of melody. I mean, comparisons will be to bands like Dissection, Necrophobic, stuff in that general vein. It has very, like, decipherable lyrics and vocals. You can understand what he's saying, and it's just full of these melodic, headbangable riffs, but it's still, when I say melodic, it's still got this harsh, aggressive nature to it, and it's just really killer stuff. Great for the style overall, just a very solid album. Up next in 8th, I'm going with Immortal Bird and the new album Querencia. Might be mispronouncing that. This band is from the USA and they are very hard to describe. There's like blackened moments, there's crusty, grindy parts, there's sludgy moments, there's death metal portions, like you name it, they're pulling influences from all over the place. Like I said, really hard to describe, a ton of influences. The vocalist here, Ray Amite, I believe is how you say her name. I was first exposed to this band because she did the drums for Throssenblot, which is one of my favorite Canadian bands. She kind of guested and played drums there and did some vocals on one of the tracks. And then I started checking out the Immortal Bird stuff after that. And she's a great vocalist. There is a lot to unpack on this album. The style shifts from song to song and even within the same song. But I dig this quite a bit. Really well done and well composed songs, touching on all these different influences. So yeah, if you just want something that's kind of gonna go some different directions, and anything I just said sounds like you might enjoy it, go check it out. Up next, going with Cosmic Putrefaction and the new album Emerald Fires Atop the Farewell Mountains. Always some tongue twister of album titles and song titles with this band. This is a one-man death metal band from Italy. The man behind the band is also in Vertebra Atlantis, which is a project I probably like even more than Cosmic Putrefaction, but I dig pretty much everything this guy puts out. This one here is no exception. Another one with killer album art. Check that out. Like, absolutely amazing. This is just crushingly heavy, but he's still not afraid to do some experimentation and bring in some different atmospheres and different sounds. It's just, all in all, a very good album. Go check it out if you haven't. Up next in 6th, I am going with Ensiferum and the new album Winter Storm. So a band that should need no introduction, definitely more on the mainstream metal side of things, but Finnish epic folk metal mixed with power metal, mixed with melodic death metal, been around forever. I love a lot of this band's albums. On their previous album to this, they did bring in a new keyboardist and vocalist, which really gave them more of a power metal edge with his soaring, clean vocals, and that is really on display on this album as well. I'd say this album is pretty on par with Thalassic, which was their last album. I don't think it's necessarily going to go down as an all-time classic in their discography, but there's a lot of good songs here. I won't say front to back it's amazing, but there's a lot of good tracks here. It's a lot of fun. I think a number of these songs will absolutely kill live, and all in all, it's just a fun Ensiferum album. If this is what they're putting out at this stage in their career, I'm fully on board with it because I enjoy this album quite a bit. Now we are into the top 5, my 5 favorite albums from the month of October. Give you a second to try to guess what they are, and then we will see what my picks are. In 5th place, I am going with Bütcher and the new album on Fowl of Tyrant Wing. This is a band from Belgium, plays like blackened speed metal, really throwback to the 80s style here. This is just a ton of fun. Their vocalist is insane. This band like brings in like hints of thrash metal and speed metal, but even some like new wave of traditional heavy metal. There's like King Diamond-esque wails with these manic blackened shrieks and rasps as well. Their previous album, 666 Goats Carry My Chariot, was amazing. I don't know as this one quite stacks up to it. The first half of this album absolutely shreds. It's fast, it's in your face, it's catchy. But then on the back half, they tried some more experimentation with like some longer songs and some different styles. Some of it works, maybe some of it didn't quite hit the mark, but nonetheless, this album is a ton of fun. I enjoy it quite a bit. Gonna be spinning this one quite often. Go listen to Bütcher if you have not. Up next in 4th, I'm going with Frozen Crown and their new album War Hearts. This is some Italian power metal, and this band has put out, what is it now, 5 albums, and this is by far their fastest, most shreddiest album. They now have 3 guitarists, and the solos on this album are ridiculous. They're super technical, brings in this melodic flair. I'm thinking that the title War Hearts of this album is probably kind of a dedication to Children of Bodom's song War Hearts, and I can kind of hear that with some of the solos. Like, I wouldn't call Frozen Crown a melodeath band at all, but some of the riffs and solos kind of have that Finnish feel to it, if you will, but then with powerful female vocals carrying these songs. But yeah, this is like by far their fastest album. I will almost say I wish there was a little more variation in that maybe they had a couple mid-paced songs. There's like one mid-paced song. I never thought I would complain about an album having too many ripping songs, but some of the songs kind of start to blend together. But don't let that detract you here. If you want some great guitar playing, like this reminds me of like Stratovarius in their heyday. Just excellent power metal with great vocals and absolutely shredding guitar. Top-notch stuff. Awesome album. Up next in third place, I'm going with Blood Incantation and their new album Absolute Elsewhere. This is some USA progressive death metal, and that label in itself is not really enough to describe this album. They're bringing in these psychedelic, like ambient and electronic moments. They're bringing in progressive rock elements as well. There's parts that are going to remind you of Pink Floyd. They bring in Tangerine Dream members to do like some of the ambiance with some of the stuff here. Like, this is truly an experience. This album is hard only putting this in third because it's such a unique album and it's really engaging throughout. I will say there's a couple things that maybe hold it back, in my opinion, at least from being as good as it could be. Don't get me wrong, I think this album is amazing. It's awesome. But some of the transitions are a little bit like clunky, doesn't necessarily seem as seamless as it should. They're almost just stopping, going right into another completely different style and trying to meld it all together. I think they could have merged it a little bit better. But all that being said, I'm just nitpicking because I'm trying to be honest and not just heap praise on it. But this is a piece of art, plain and simple. It's a great album. It's just going to be high on my year-end list. It's only in third place this month because this month is fucking stacked. But don't take what I'm saying too negatively. This is a great album. Just a couple things, trying to be honest with my reviews here. Up next in second, an album I did a full review of, and that is Triumpher with their second album, Spirit Invictus. So since I did a review, I won't go too in-depth here, but in case you missed it, this band is from Greece. They play epic heavy metal, power metal. I absolutely love everything about this album. The riffs have this like blackened edge to it that you don't always get with epic heavy metal. And the vocalist sounds a lot like Eric Adams from Manowar, and just blending those together, it just creates something so epic and magnificent that I just want to pump my fist in the air, sing along to these, headbang to every song. It's kind of mind-boggling to me that so many channels on YouTube seem to just ignore traditional heavy metal and like epic heavy metal. Like, I don't really see anyone else talking about this, and it doesn't make sense to me. Why are you just ignoring a whole subgenre of metal that pretty much is responsible for heavy metal in and of itself? But I'm getting off track. I don't understand why so many people avoid traditional heavy metal. If you're interested in traditional heavy metal, definitely check out this album because it fucking kicks ass. Going into this list, I would have thought that one was going to be my number one for sure, but something came out this last weekend that has knocked it off its perch, and I think, at least for now, is my favorite of the month. We'll see it in time, but my favorite album of the month is Iotunn with their new album, Kinship. So another band that's very hard to describe, I will just say progressive metal, but there's hints of melodic death metal, there's hints of power metal, there's hints of like melodic doom. There's hints of black metal even in spots. I absolutely loved this band's debut back from 2021. It actually made my year-end list. So they had a lot to live up to with that like superb debut. Was it going to be a sophomore slump? I don't think so. I think they came out swinging for the fences, and this is even better than the debut. Time will tell. Of course, this is still very fresh in my mind. This band features a vocalist from Hamford. And he's got these great soaring cleans that are probably going to remind you a little bit of like Borknagar. And the music itself sometimes reminds me of Borknagar, maybe even Opeth or Enslaved, but over the scope of like melodic death metal and power metal. It's just got all these different touches. The musicianship here and songwriting is so insane. Like some of the solos on this album are some of the best solos I've heard by anyone all year. The drumming is sick as well. I love the vocals. I love everything about this. It's just top tier musicianship, top tier songwriting. Like I said, it just came out, but it's got this melancholic touch to it, and it's beautiful. It's a great fucking album. We'll see in time where this ends up. Like I said, when you've only listened to something for a handful of days, it's very hard to compare to things that you've been listening to even for a month. But for right now, it is my favorite of the month because it just is knocking my socks off. Absolutely love it. And that's it for my list today. So let me know what you thought of these down below. And as usual, let me know which albums I missed, which ones you would recommend I go check out, because I can't listen to everything, and I always enjoy getting some new stuff to listen to. So yeah, until next time. Hammerheart Metal Reviews. Out.